Ryan, I hear that there's some technology in this engine where things have been reversed in terms of communication. Can you please tell me a little bit more about this?
Hi Liesl, thank you for having me today, and hello to everybody at home. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the Massey Ferguson technology and how we put our farmers first, how we invest in their business by listening to them. The tractor behind me, for example, is a brand new Massey Ferguson. It's the first one in the country. It's our brand new 8S. And this machine is designed by farmers. We went and did an entire group internationally and had almost like a survey and a study on our previous line, the 7700 series, and from their inputs this machine was born.
So what exactly is the birth does it contain? What is in here that's different from the previous versions?
So we've taken farmers' issues and things that they've had with the previous series into account, and we've basically put that into the DNA of this machine, and we believe this machine more than ever is born to farm.
But can you please tell me about the DNA? Tell me what is different. Let's take me through it.
So looking at the front axle, we've got quite the revolutionary front axle suspension. These machines offer more stroke. The further they can move up and down, the more ground contact they can make, the better the forward speed, the better the traction, the longer the tires live, and the lower the fuel consumption.
So is this different from your previous version?
Yes, the new axle is way more improved compared to the previous model. Customers can expect much better traction and even a more comfortable ride.
Okay, true sales talk. Okay, so what else about the engine and the gearbox that I've heard about?
So this is quite new to agriculture as a whole. If I can guide you around the edge here, you'll notice quite a big gap between the bonnet and the cab glass. Now that gap is there for two main reasons. The first reason is for noise. So from the driver's point of view, it's a much more quieter ride. But more importantly for the farm, that is where the cold air or the intake now sits.
Okay.
All other machines generally suck their fresh air from the front, which creates a vacuum. And that vacuum causes grass and all kinds of debris to actually get stuck on the front grille. And we've ultimately reversed the airflow of our engines.
Okay.
So now we in fact use the front half of our engine as the cooling part. So there's basically hot air being blown out the front and cold air being sucked at the back. This is also where the least amount of dust is formed. So we expect less dust, longer service lives, and we believe this is going to change farming for the good.
Okay. But now tell me about the gearbox and the engine talking to one another differently than before.
So Massey Ferguson is quite famous for their Agco power engines as well as their Dyna transmissions. We have the Dyna 4, which is our 16 by 16. We have a Dyna 6, which is a 24 by 24. And we also have the Dyna VT, which is very similar to the transmissions we find in the Fendt technology. What makes the Dyna quite unique is that it has a feature called Dynamic Tractor Management, or DTM for short. And what that ultimately means is the engine and the transmission are in constant communication with one another in the name of ground speed or efficiency. So what would ultimately happen in a scenario of when DTM is activated, you would actually go off with whatever application you're doing. Let's use a plow, for example. You'd be plowing at about 7.5 kilometers an hour with the RPM running at about 1600 RPMs. As the tractor starts hitting an uphill, for example, the transmission will pick up the strain and actually send a signal to the engine to increase the revs. And that's important for ground speed because a lot of attachments are specifically effective at a very specific ground speed. If you were to, for example, lose a kilometer an hour, your soil won't churn as much as if it were traveling at 7. And so the machine can actually pick that up, push the revs up and maintain that ground speed. Another way that you can use, well, if you end up going down the hill again, the machine will rev down again to maintain that contact. Another way that we use DTM is a auto rev system. So a lot of machines have like a fixed RPM kind of memory digital system. A lot of our friends out there, they use a digital fixed rev. With DTM, you can almost create a variable revolution. So you almost set a specific target framework for the engine, and it'll decide where in that window is it allowed to RPM for you to get the best fuel consumption. So DTM is either a fuel saver or a ground speed saver. Either way, the system is there to make your farm more profitable at the end of the day.
Ryan, but also you've got a colleague that you'd like to introduce me to concerning that little white box there at the top.
That's right. I'd like to introduce you to Zack. He's our fuel specialist. He's going to tell us more about the technology with regards to self-steer and variable rate applications.
Let's go.
Thank you, Liesel.
Zack, ek het nou gehoor daar's nuwe tegnologie in daai wit boksie daar bo op julle trekker. Kan jy my 'n bietjie meer daarvan vertel?
Ek kan vir jou meer vertel, ja. Soos jy sal sien, daar is 'n Trimble badge op hom of 'n Trimble logo op hom. Maar dis wat dit ophou. So ons gebruik die harde ware van Trimble, maar die sagte ware is Agco. So wat dit voordeel is, ons gebruik Trimble se syne, se korreksiesyne, maar vir alles onder toe is Agco.
So dit is produkspesifiek ontwerp en dis nou 'n nuwe ding. So wat behels hierdie tegnologie wat daarby geïnstalleer is?
Okay, so ja, dit is presies reg. Dit is produkgeoriënteerd. Wat die voordeel aan dit is vir my produk gemaak. So as daai trekker van die assembly line afkom, dan is hy reg. Ons hoef nie nou derde party goed by te sit nie. Hy's presies reg vir daai trekker. Maar die voordele van dit is al my kalibrasies van my stelsel staan op my trekker. So dit maak in die landsit baie makliker. Produktiwiteit, alles gaan oor produktiwiteit.
So met ander woorde, 'n boer wat dan een van jou produkte sou koop, het nou geen ander ekstra installasie tyd wat hy moet spandeer of so nie. Hy kan net die knoppies druk en dan is jy eintlik klaar soos Bob jou ankel gereed om te gaan.
Korrek, presies dit. En netjies. Jy kan kyk daai trekker. Hy kom so uit as ek daai sleutel aansluit, is my Massey badge daar. Daar's niks ekstra drade nie. Hy's geïntegreerd in my stelsel en my trekker se verstellings kan ek op dieselfde skerm doen. Wat die voordeel is daarvan is ek kan natuurlik my trekker se data ook het. So dit kan ek ook dadelik rekord of opneem. En dit is ook daarby. So daar's oneindige voordele om my stelsel te gebruik of kom ons sê die OEM-stelsel te gebruik as om 'n derde party in te sit. Ek kan dan selfs op die kaart wat ek skryf, die supply data kaart, is my engine se performance is daar. So my dieselverbruik is daar, my hektaar per uur is klaar daar. So as my boer die kaart gaan aftrek van die stelsel af en op sy FMS program gaan oopmaak, is die data daarso. Maar as ek 'n derde party in het, is my supply data van my implement daarso, maar niks van my trekker nie. So dadelik het ons daar. En dan die voordeel van dit is ook dan kan ons begin connect. En dan kan ons wireless transfer doen met data en outomaties is daai inligting ook daar.